Even after the month of Ramadan, the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, had recommended for Muslims that they fast an additional 6 days from the month after it, known as Shawwal. Any 6 days. This fasting the Prophet recommended, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, saying that one who fasts for this 6 days, along with Ramadan, gets the reward of fasting the whole year. Because in general principle in Islam is that one day of fasting or one good deed is equal to 10. So 30 days is 300 days, 6 more days makes 60 days, 360 days, we've covered the year. Also, besides that, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ recommended that we fast every Monday and Thursday. Every Monday and Thursday of every week. He also recommended that we fast the 13th, 14th, and 15th of every lunar month. These are the days of the full moon. And also the 10th of Muharram, the first month of the lunar calendar. On the 10th, we're recommended to fast. So the principle of fasting is something which continues throughout the whole year, because the benefits that one stands to gain from it are not limited to only a particular time of the year. So in Islam, fasting is a way of life. The month of Ramadan is the month which we are fasting. But why Ramadan? Why this 9th month? Why? Because Allah, God Almighty, stated in the Quran, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن, the month of Ramadan in which the Quran was revealed. So Allah has linked the revelation of the Quran with Ramadan. This was a blessed month. This is where the final revelation of God to humankind began. As such, that month was given the special status to be the month of fasting. So Ramadan is a month of Quran. This is how Muslims generally look at it, and that's why you find that Muslims will try to read the whole Quran during this month. Although reading of the Quran should be throughout the year, but especially in this month, it was the practice of the Prophet, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, to recite the whole of the Quran from beginning to end during this month. People learned the Quran from him in this way. They memorized it, they wrote it down in this period. So this month has the special significance, the special importance, in that the Quran, the final revelation of God to man, took place in this month. The main purpose of fasting in Islam has actually been defined by God in the Quran. It's not left up to human beings to philosophize as to why do we fast. Allah very clearly said in the 2nd chapter of the Quran, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Fasting has been prescribed for you as it was prescribed for those before you, in order that you be conscious of God, that you gain what is called taqwa. Taqwa meaning an awareness and a consciousness of God. So this is the main goal of fasting. How is that achieved? When one becomes hungry, what is the relationship between that and God? One could say, well, you become hungry, you're concerned about food. That would bring you closer to food, or being more concerned about food. But no, because of the fact that people are choosing not to eat food. Of course, if you're hungry because food is not available, then your main concern is going to be food. When you decide yourself not to eat, now you're not eating because this is a commandment of God. And who knows whether you eat or you don't eat? Only God. Because you can always slip away when people are not watching you and eat something. You can have things in your pocket, things in your office. People don't know. Apparently you're fasting, but in fact you're not. So therefore, this is something, what stops you from not eating is your consciousness of God. So this heightens your consciousness. As you have the desire to want to eat, you remember you've made this commitment to God. So this helps to bring you closer to God and to be aware of God throughout your life. I mean, this is the goal. This is the main goal, to be conscious of God. Because the goals of fasting, the main goal of fasting is consciousness of God, it makes sense then that this principle must have existed with the religion of God from the very beginning. When God prescribed the religion for the first human beings, Adam and Eve, part of that prescription would have been fasting, because the need to be conscious of God is not something which only came along 1,400 years ago. How many thousands of years after the time of Adam and Eve? No, that is a need which existed right from the very beginning. And that is why fasting has been prescribed all along. And this is what Allah has stated in the Quran, كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِن قَبْلِكُمْ, as it was prescribed for those before you. And that is why we find in Judaism, in Christianity, fasting existing. Even in Hinduism, Buddhism, in the various other religions, it's there. Our belief, of course, is that the origin was one religion, Islam. What we now know as Buddhism or Christianity or Judaism, these were deviations and, we could say, a corruption of the original message. What was retained in that corruption is fasting. But the original message was one. The religion of Adam was Islam, so was the religion of Moses, of David, of Jesus, of Muhammad. May God's peace and blessings be on all of them. Fasting benefits on a variety of different levels. On the ritual level, where a person just fulfills the basic requirements of not eating from dawn until sunset, there is an element of discipline there, that one disciplines one's life. When one takes a hold of one's life and sets a period of time when they're not going to eat, it gives them a sense of control. This ritual practice gives them a sense of control over life. And this is something important, because for a lot of people, when they fall into depression, it is a result of them feeling that life has slipped out of their hands, the control over their lives lost. So this can help even in people who are in states of depression. That's why fasting has a benefit even to those who are depressed, that it helps to give them a sense of control which they're losing. But that's on the ritual level. And of course, this is really only beneficial if we take that ritual level to the spirit, to the physical level. And this is really only beneficial if the person follows the principles that the Prophet, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, set. Because though the rule says you don't eat after dawn and you eat at sunset, now people may eat huge meals for the dawn meal, suhoor. They may eat full meals so that they fill themselves up, and then they spend the rest of the day, their bodies are just digesting this food, till finally the digestion process ends just before Maghrib, just before the time to break the fast, and then they go and they break the fast again with a full meal all the way until the morning. So they don't experience hunger at all. They've fulfilled the letter, the ritual letter of the law, but they haven't really fulfilled the spirit. So the spirit is and requires a light meal for suhoor. It should be a light meal, very light meal, so that during the day of fasting one experiences hunger. Because most of us never experience hunger really. The hunger pangs where we feel pain in our stomachs, because we want, it's empty, we want some food. To experience that hunger pang is an important part of fasting, because what it does is it gives us a sense of empathy and sympathy for those who are feeling those same pangs of hunger, not because they chose not to eat, but because there's no food to eat. So when one experiences that, they have a sense of emotional and psychological connection with those who are suffering that not by choice.